Hello and welcome. Today we're looking at a custom tone print for the Flashback delay and looper from TC Electronic. This tone print I've titled Flanged Echo. It's very similar to the preset mod delay that comes with the pedal, but instead of having a chorus delay effect, we have a flange in its place, which has a very different feel. I like the mod delay, but sometimes it gets a bit slushy for me. I don't know if that's a very clear description, but if I'm using dirt pedals or depending on how my amp's set up, this kind of addresses that, because even though the flange also changes when you're introducing dirt and that it becomes more prominent, I find that it doesn't lose some of the clarity like you do with the chorus. So that's why I built it, but you might just like it for what it is. I still use the mod delay. I think it's great, but I think this works a little bit better with dirt. So the type of flange I've used for this is a Electric Mistress style flange. I don't own an Electric Mistress, but I do have the E-Lady from Moore, which is apparently a pretty good clone of the pedal. So hopefully that's a good representation. Let's have a listen and see how it sounds. So let's start off with a clean loop. Then when we switch on the delay, there's a lot more movement happening there, but still quite subtle. And if we add a little bit of reverb, it just adds a bit of life there. So that's the kind of sound I'm going for with that. Let me just play a little bit over the top of that loop so you can just hear how it works with a lead sound as well. I know I'm putting them both through the delay at the same time, but you get the general idea. Okay, now I'm going to switch on the Mojo pedal I have for just a little bit more warmth, just so you can hear how it warms up the flange a little bit. Anyway, that's the kind of thing. I'm just going to switch on a little bit of dirt now and not play the loop so you can hear how it sounds with that. So still got the Mojo one. Add a little bit more dirt to that. The tube screamer. And let's put on a treble drive, which is like an OCD clone. everything off again. Okay, so that's how it sounds. Let's have a look at how to build the thing. So to build this, I started with the mod delay Toneprint. So let's start with that. So on here, if we select mod, and then in here we're going to change a few things. At the top you'll have the kill dry off. We're going to leave that where it is because we want a proper delay signal. Don't worry about the delay time or the feedback because we're going to leave they're dependent on where your delay and feedback knobs are, so that doesn't matter. I like the saturation rolled up a bit with this, so it's a little bit warmer, a little bit more like a tape delay. So I recommend putting that around 6 decibels. You can tweak that to taste. If you like more of a cleaner thing, then feel free to keep that as it was set. But that's the big thing for me. We are also going to push the high cut up a bit, so we've got a little bit more happening there, all the way up to 12.5K. Not quite to the top, but it just makes the flange a little bit more obvious. We're going to forget about the low cut, we're going to forget about the output level and leave those as they are. We are going to leave the dynamic sensitivity as it was, no damping. The release time I have got set as 293 in my notes here, so somewhere around 300 is good, but I'm going to leave it as it was actually because I think that sounds great. So down to the modulation section, we're going to change the modulation type to advanced flanger and leave modulation on. Forget about 0 through flanger. We can drag it down to 0 if you like, but it's not going to make a lot of difference. The speed is a hard set speed, so it's going to stay as it was. I like a nice slow swooshy flange on this so that it's going to work with pretty much everything. It's like the Electric Mistress set at a low level, which is kind of like the sounds you get from like early Police recordings, things like that. We're often mistaken as a chorus because it's quite gentle and not a jet plane flanging. So we're going to go with 175 megahertz because that's slow enough for a good cycle, and it just seemed the great point for me. For the depth, we're going to set that at 2.4 for the depth 1. So if you're having trouble setting these, you can use a scroll wheel on a mouse to have a little bit of finer granularity. So there we go, 2.4. We're going to set the depth 2 at 0. We're going to set depth 3 at 0. We're going to leave the high cut all the way up at 20 kilohertz. We're going to leave the mix at 100%, but if you want to try and see how that's working, feel free to play with that. If you feel like there's too much flange, I'd recommend looking at bringing the mix down rather than mucking around with some of the other parameters. Right, so down to the delay time. We're leaving output level as it was. We're going to take delay time 1 and we're going to set it at 1.1 milliseconds. There we go. 1.3 milliseconds for delay time 2, if we can get that down there. Oops. There we go, this is a little bit fiddly, but it's worth the effort. And then 2.4 milliseconds for delay time 3. And that, for me, gives me that nice balance. And that's the best I've been able to match that particular flangey tone. And here's the most important part, is the feedback. We're going to set that at minus 50%. And we need to have that negative feedback if we want to have that Electric Mistress sound. So I can't actually get that bang on 50 there, so that's, oh, there we go, right. And we're going to change the feedback high cut to 16K. We're not going to change anything in the knob range from the mod template, so we're going to leave those as they are, so the delay time and the feedback are just like the original template, and that's the whole thing. So it's pretty easy to build when using that mod template or Toneprint as your starting point. When you've done that, click your store button, type in what you want to call it. I've already saved it as Flanged Echo, so feel free to type in whatever you want to call it in here, and then store that in your library, and then store to your pedal. Otherwise it will only be in the editor, not in your actual pedal when you unplug it. Here's an overview of all the settings for this Toneprint. I'll put a link in the description of where you can download the image. If you found this video tutorial helpful, click the thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click subscribe. Thanks for watching.